You're going to fall asleep in a medieval peasant village, not the romantic version history likes to imagine, not castles, not glittering royal feasts, not knights rescuing princesses beneath stained glass windows, but the real version, the version where the roof leaks when it rains, where your bed is a sack of straw crawling with dust and loose hay, where winter feels endless, where your hands ache before adulthood even fully begins, and yet, somehow, people still fell deeply in love there. Tonight, we're going to slowly follow the life of a young medieval peasant girl, from waking up before sunrise on freezing mornings, to surviving endless days of labor in muddy fields, to quietly falling in love with another village boy beneath candlelight and summer storms. We're going to wander through smoky cottages, rain-soaked roads, harvest festivals glowing with firelight, quiet church bells echoing through foggy mornings, and the strange, deeply human reality of what love and marriage actually felt like for ordinary people hundreds of years ago. Maybe you're listening tonight from a quiet bedroom, or during rain somewhere outside your window, or from a city apartment where everyone else has already gone to sleep. And honestly, I'm genuinely curious. Where are you listening from tonight? I always love reading the comments and seeing where everyone is in the world while we slowly drift through these stories together. So wherever you are right now, get comfortable. Turn the lights down a little if you can. There's no complicated story to follow tonight. No loud suspense, no stressful twists. Just rain against cottage roofs, warm firelight, soft medieval nights, and one ordinary girl trying to survive a difficult life while slowly discovering what it means to love someone. And maybe, as strange as it sounds, we'll realize people 700 years ago were not nearly as different from us as we imagine. Because even then, people still lay awake replaying conversations before sleep. They still hoped someone might notice them in a crowded room. They still dreamed quietly about warmth, comfort, safety, and having someone beside them when the world felt cold. So, close your eyes for a moment. Imagine this. You wake up in complete darkness. Not peaceful darkness. Real darkness. Untouched by electricity, the kind medieval people lived inside every single night. The air is freezing cold, rain taps softly against a weak wooden roof overhead, and bed beneath you crackles quietly with straw every time you move. quiet one, the muddy one, the deeply human one. Your mother hands you yesterday's dress to wear again. Almost nobody owns many clothes. Fabric is expensive. Time is expensive. Everything is expensive when survival depends entirely on labor. The wool scratches against your skin as you pull it over your head. Your fingers are stiff from cold. Your shoes are little more than worn leather tied together by hand. Breakfast is already cooking slowly over the fire. If you are lucky, there is coarse bread. If you are very lucky, there is ale warmed slightly beside the hearth. People drank ale constantly in medieval villages because water was often unsafe. Even children drank weak versions daily. You sit beside the fire while your mother brushes crumbs from the table with exhausted hands. Nobody speaks much this early. Outside, the rain continues, and somewhere in the distance, church bells begin ringing softly through the fog. The sound echoes across fields and muddy roads in a way that feels almost haunting. You've heard those bells your entire life. Bells for births, bells for weddings, bells for funerals, bells for warnings, bells for prayer. Time itself feels measured by bells here, not clocks, never clocks. And perhaps that's why medieval life feels slower when we imagine it now. People were not constantly pulled forward by glowing screens and endless notifications. Their world moved with seasons, with sunlight, with harvests, with storms, and yet their emotional lives were probably just as loud as ours, even if the world around them was quieter. By sunrise, you are already working. The fields stretch endlessly gray beneath the rainy sky. Mud clings heavily to your shoes with every step. Your hands ache before the day has even properly begun. Peasant labor was relentless, especially for women. Modern people often imagine medieval women simply sitting inside cottages sewing quietly beside windows. But that is not reality. We work constantly, fetching water from wells, grinding grain by hand, cooking, cleaning, repairing clothing, milking animals, carrying firewood, helping during harvests, tending gardens, washing laundry in freezing rivers. Everything physical, everything exhausting. Even simple survival requires enormous effort. And still, life keeps moving. The village wakes around you slowly. Smoke rises from cottages. Dogs bark in the distance. Carts creak through muddy roads. Someone coughs nearby. The world feels gray, cold, and strangely beautiful at the same time. Rainwater gathers in wheel tracks across the dirt paths. You wipe wet hair from your face while carrying bundles toward the fields. And that's when you first notice him. Again. His name is Rowan. You've seen him before, of course. Small villages make privacy impossible. Everyone knows everyone. Who their parents are. Who owes money. Who is expected to marry soon. But today, something feels different. Maybe it's the rain. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's simply because you are 17 and beginning to notice the world differently now. Rowan is standing beside an ox cart helping his older brother repair a broken wheel. His sleeves are rolled upward. Rain darkens his hair. Mud stains his boots. And when he glances up, his eyes meet yours for only a second, then quickly look away again. That's all. Nothing dramatic. No music swelling in the background. No cinematic moment. Just two tired peasant teenagers briefly noticing each other beside a muddy road in the year 1321. And somehow, that tiny moment follows you all day. That night, you think about him while trying to sleep. The cottage is dark except for faint firelight glowing orange against wooden walls. Rain still taps softly against the roof. Your little sister is already asleep beside you, but you remain awake, because this is another thing history rarely talks about. Medieval people probably lay awake overthinking too. They replayed conversations, wondered if someone liked them, imagined futures that frightened them. Human beings have always done this, even here, even now, even surrounded by plague and poverty and uncertainty. And perhaps that's comforting. That longing itself is ancient. You stare upward toward the ceiling beams, listening to distant wind outside, thinking about the way Rowan looked at you, wondering if he even remembers it happened. Weeks pass, and months, and slowly, without either of you fully realizing it, your lives begin circling around each other. You notice them during market days first. The village market is loud compared to ordinary medieval life. Farmers shouting prices, children moving between carts, women trading eggs and cloth, the smell of livestock, red earth, bread, smoke. People rarely travel far from their villages, so market days feel strangely exciting, almost festive. You are helping your mother trade onions when Rowan approaches carrying sacks of grain over one shoulder. Your heart jumps embarrassingly fast. He pauses beside the stall awkwardly. Your onions are smaller this year, he says quietly. You stare at him, then laugh despite yourself. They survived the frost better than your father's wheat. He grins, and suddenly, everything feels warmer. Even the cold wind, even the gray sky. Because attraction often begins in tiny, ordinary moments like this. Not grand speeches, just someone making you laugh while life feels difficult. Courtship in peasant villages happens slowly, quietly, mostly because there is almost nowhere to be alone. Privacy barely exists in medieval life. Parents watch carefully. Villagers gossip constantly. Church expectations hang over everyone. So romance grows in fragments. Walking home after evening prayer. Talking during harvest work. Brief conversations beside wells. Hands brushing accidentally while passing tools. And every tiny interaction feels enormous because opportunities are so rare. One evening near autumn, you and Rowan walk together after church. The sky is turning deep blue with sunset. Cold air smells faintly like wood smoke and rain. The village behind you glows softly with candlelight visible through shutters. For a while, neither of you says anything, only footsteps against wet earth. Then Rowan suddenly asks, "Do you ever wish you lived somewhere else?" The question surprises you, because peasants rarely speak openly about dreams. Dreams can feel dangerous when survival is uncertain. You think carefully before answering. Sometimes you admit softly, "Where would you go?" He shrugs slightly. "Anywhere warmer." You laugh quietly, and for a moment, the two of you simply stand there beneath fading evening light, smiling at each other. Not because anything extraordinary happened, but because being understood feels rare. Even now, especially then. Winter arrives brutally. The days become shorter. The roads freeze. Food grows scarcer. Inside cottages, families huddle close beside fires while wind screams outside through dark, empty fields. And this is when medieval life becomes hardest. Not romantic hardest, real hardest. Cold fingers splitting open from labor. Hunger tightening painfully inside your stomach. Fear of illness spreading through villages. At night, with the worst storms outside, you lie awake beside Rowan's ribbon hidden beneath your blanket. Yes, he gave you one eventually. A small strip of green cloth tied around your wrist one snowy evening after a village gathering. You still remember how nervous he looked handing it to you, as if such a tiny gift somehow mattered enormously. months after feel dreamlike. Not because life becomes easier. It doesn't. You still wake before dawn, still work until exhaustion, still fear sickness and bad harvests. But now, the world contains Rowan, and that changes everything. Suddenly market days matter more. Church gatherings feel exciting. Even ordinary walks home feel softer somehow. You begin imagining impossible things quietly before sleeping. A small cottage together. Children, maybe. Growing old beside someone who understands you. And honestly, those dreams are probably not very different from modern ones. People across history have always wanted the same small comforts. Warmth, safety, someone to come home to, someone who notices when you're sad, someone who reaches for your hand instinctively. The details change across centuries, but the longing stays strangely identical. Years later, you would still remember that kiss whenever it rained, not because it was dramatic, not because it looked like something from a painting, but because afterward, everything felt different. The forest had smelled richer somehow, the rain softer, the entire world strangely warmer despite the cold soaking through your clothes. And that frightened you a little, because in medieval life, hope can feel dangerous. People die young, harvests fail, illness arrives suddenly, winters destroy families. You have spent your entire life learning not to expect too much happiness from the world. And yet now, while lying awake at night listening to storms against the cottage roof, you catch yourself imagining futures, real futures, not just surviving winter, but surviving it beside someone. Summer arrives slowly, the fields brighten into endless green beneath pale golden sunlight. For the first time in months, the village feels alive again. Children run barefoot through muddy paths, women wash clothes beside the river, men repair fences damaged during winter storms. Even the air smells different now. Fresh earth, wild grass, wood smoke drifting lazily through warm evenings. This is the season people fall in love most easily, not because life becomes simpler, but because warmth makes survival feel less heavy. The workdays are still brutally long. You wake before sunrise nearly every morning. The cottage already warm and crowded by dawn. Sunlight slipping weakly through the shutters while your mother kneads dough beside the table. The father sharpens tools quietly near the doorway. Your younger brother complains about chores before he's fully awake. Everything feels cramped. No silence, no privacy, no space to truly be alone with your thoughts. And sometimes, I wonder if adulthood simply means learning how to carry exhaustion gracefully. Still, there are moments now that make the endless labor feel bearable, because Rowan finds excuses to be near you constantly. If you're sent to collect water from the well, somehow he appears nearby carrying grain. If your family hurts, harvest grows. His family somehow ends up beside yours. If there's music during village gatherings, he always seems to stand close enough for your shoulders to brush. And every tiny interaction matters, because physical closeness is rare here. Touch itself feels intimate in medieval life. A hand against your back, guiding you through crowds. Fingers brushing accidentally while passing bread. Shoulders pressed together beside fires during winter gatherings. Tiny things become enormous when the world gives people so little privacy. One evening near midsummer, the village gathers for a festival. These festivals are some of the few moments medieval peasants truly escape routine. The entire village glows with firelight after sunset. Lanterns hang from wooden posts. Music echoes through open fields. almost shyly. He reaches for your hand. Your stomach twists instantly, not because hand-holding is scandalous exactly, but because public affection in medieval villages is rare enough that it still feels incredibly intimate. His hand is rough from labor, warm despite the cool evening air, and suddenly you become painfully aware of everything. The music, the firelight, the closeness between you, the fact people might notice, but you don't let go. Instead, you let him pull you gently toward the dancing, and honestly, you are terrible at it. You trip twice almost immediately. He laughs so hard he nearly loses rhythm himself. An older woman nearby shakes her head affectionately while muttering something about young people. But for the first time in what feels like forever, you stop thinking about survival, about work, about winter, about fear. For one evening, you are simply 17, a girl dancing beneath firelight with a boy she loves while the entire village glows softly around her. And perhaps people throughout history needed nights like this desperately. Little pauses in suffering, proof that life could still feel beautiful sometimes. Later that night, after the festival fades, you and Rowan walk home together beneath a sky crowded with stars. No city lights exist here to soften them. The medieval night sky feels enormous, infinite. The roads are quiet now, except for distant drunken laughter fading behind you. Warm wind moves softly through the tall grass beside the path. And for a while, neither of you speaks, because some moments feel too full for conversation. Eventually, Rowan looks toward you carefully. My father spoke to yours. Your heart tightens instantly. Marriage. The word hangs unspoken between you. In medieval villages, relationships rarely remain uncertain forever. Families notice, neighbors gossip. Practical arrangements begin quietly forming beneath everything. And suddenly the reality of adulthood arrives frighteningly fast. You stop walking. The stars above seem painfully bright. What did he say? Rowan hesitates slightly. He asked if I intended to marry you. The air leaves your lungs, not because this surprises you completely, but because hearing it aloud makes everything real. Marriage means leaving your family cottage, sharing another life entirely, possibly children, possibly childbirth, possibly death. Medieval women understand very young how dangerous life can become after marriage. And suddenly, beneath this beautiful summer sky, you feel terrified. Because loving someone is one thing, building an entire life beside them is another. No one notices your silence immediately. If you don't want, I do. The answer leaves your mouth before you can stop it. You stare at the ground afterward, embarrassed by how quickly you said it. But when you look back up, he's smiling. Not triumphantly, not arrogantly, just softly, like someone relieved. And something inside you settles quietly then. Because perhaps one of the most comforting feelings in human existence is realizing someone chooses you too. The weeks before your wedding pass strangely fast. Life continues normally around you. Fields still need tending. Bread still needs baking. Water still needs carrying. And yet everything feels emotionally sharper somehow. Your mother begins teaching you things more carefully now. How to manage food stores during winter. How to stretch flour when harvests are poor. How to soothe fevers. How to survive marriage kindly. Because medieval mothers understand something important. Love alone is not enough to sustain difficult lives. Partnership matters too. Patience matters. Gentleness matters. Endurance matters. One rainy afternoon while sewing beside the fire,
she looks away. But kindness matters everywhere, and somehow that sentence stays with her longer than almost anything else. The night before our wedding, we cannot sleep. The cottage feels unusually quiet. Moonlight slips faintly through the shutters onto the floor, and everyone else breathes softly around you. You stare upward, listening to distant wind outside. Tomorrow, everything changes. You think about childhood suddenly, about small things, running through fields barefoot, helping your mother grind grain, sleeping beside your sister every night, watching storms from the doorway while your father repaired tools beside the fire. And grief surprises you a little, because even happy changes involve loss. You are not simply gaining ruin, you are also leaving behind the girl you used to be. And perhaps every adult throughout history has quietly mourned that version of themselves sometimes.
The younger self, who still belonged entirely to home. Morning arrives gray and cool. Your wedding day. There are no giant flower arrangements, no orchestras, no towering white cakes. But somehow, it still feels beautiful. Your dress is simple wool dyed a faded blue. Your hair has been brushed carefully for over an hour by your mother and sister, while older women fuss around the cottage adjusting fabric and whispering prayers. Outside, church bells ring slowly through the village. The sound makes your chest ache instantly, because this is really happening. The church itself is small and cold inside. Stone walls, candlelight, the faint smell of damp earth and incense. Villagers fill the benches quietly watching as you walk forward beside your father. And then you see Rowan waiting near the altar, nervous, trying not to look nervous, hands roughened from years of labor clasped tightly together. When his eyes meet yours, something inside you calms immediately. The ceremony itself is short, simple vows, simple blessings. But when Rowan takes your hand, his thumb brushes softly against your skin beneath everyone's gaze. Such a tiny movement, and somehow it feels more intimate than the entire ceremony, because love often hides inside tiny gestures, not grand speeches, just small moments of tenderness people almost miss. That evening, after music and food and dancing, after laughter and ale and endless congratulations, the village slowly grows quiet again, and eventually, you and Rowan walk alone toward your new cottage together. Your cottage. The thought feels unreal. The night air is cool now. Crickets echo softly through the dark fields. Candlelight glows faintly behind distant windows as villagers settle into sleep. You are exhausted, emotionally, physically, completely. But beneath the exhaustion, there's warmth too, because beside you walks someone who has chosen to carry life with you now. The cottage waiting ahead is tiny. One room, a straw bed, a table, a fire pit, almost nothing. And yet, when Rowan opens the door and gestures for you to enter first, it somehow feels like stepping into an entirely new world. Not because the room is grand, but because for the first time in your life, the future feels like something shared.